Good afternoon, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be with you here today. My name is Rebecca Ann Proctor, and I'm an independent journalist, author, editor based in Dubai for over 16 years. It's hard to believe. And I've been reporting in Saudi for close to 10 years, so I've really been able to witness the amazing amount of changes, but also developments in the world, particularly within the creative economy. And in that note, it's really a great pleasure to delve into this topic, which is fairly new for me, but which I found fascinating, esports. And within that, there's obviously the realm of gaming and creativity and innovation. And I'm here today with two wonderful panelists. Gail Dickey, CEO of Gamer World News from the United States, who has a wealth of experience in the entertainment realm, and esports specifically, and Mani Sadhu, the CEO of Elite Sports Agency from the United Kingdom, who is a sports agent as well as an entrepreneur specializing in athlete representation, brand partnerships, football, transfer brokerage, and sports marketing, and much more. This morning, I moderated a very interesting talk also on esports and how it's really becoming a phenomenon in the world of entertainment. And in this panel, what we're going to do is delve a bit deeper within what makes esports so magnificent in terms of content creation and how this is a sector that's rapidly overtaking the other entertainment verticals of film, of music, and TV, which is something that I actually did not know about before preparing for these panels. So it was really interesting for me to learn how this is a whole new industry that's really taking rise, and particularly in Saudi Arabia. And just to note that in 2027, there will be the first Olympic esports tournament held in Saudi Arabia. And last year there was also the World Championships, World Tournament for esports as well, held in Riyadh. So this country is really becoming at the forefront for investment in the industry. And on that note, I want to turn first to Gail. Building a successful gaming and esports company requires a strategic mix of business, community engagement, and industry-specific elements. Gail, with your wealth of experience, how can you address and explain what is behind the current gamer market and global industry for esports?
Well, thanks very much. I think we have to look at gaming as ushering in the new evolution of media. The current statistics in the game world include about $200 billion in game revenues and about $1.8 billion for the esports revenues. I like to differentiate between them. And the current demographics are a little surprising. So the current male gamer is 32 years old. And believe it or not, the female gaming demographic has gone as high as 40 to 48 years old. And right here in the MENA region, we're looking at about 337 million gamers. We also have some current statistics that state that 80 to 90% of the games that we play are consumed by 78% of the population, and new games are only accounting for about 10% of the market, which means that you have to really come up with something pretty spectacular to capture the eyes and the ears of new gamers. And also, I just want to add that in the United States, we're having discussions about what really defines a gamer, like what is a gamer. So I don't think there's anyone in our audience who really doesn't think they are. If don't think you're a gamer, I'd love to see someone raise their hand. Okay, so if you don't think you're a gamer, do you use GPS on your phone? Of course you do. So that is also part of that gaming evolution, and I think it's kind of important to note that gaming affects our daily lives, and it's actually the next lead of interactive entertainment for content creators, for investors, for brands to really capture a global audience.
Thanks so much, Gail. I think that's so interesting, that link to the GPS. We're all becoming gamers sometimes and we don't even realize it with the technology we use today. Mani, in terms of sort of, you're an agent, you told me you're just recently doing more work in the kingdom, in the gaming realm. So how are you approaching gaming from a content creation marketing perspective and furthering your own business?
Well, firstly, I think when you're looking at sports marketing, not just within gaming, across traditional sports as well, it's always about effective storytelling. If you can make content that can engage with your fans, your customers, and can relay what a brand and a company is trying to achieve, then it's a great avenue for it. The thing about gaming as well is it goes across so many different platforms. TV, entertainment, social media. So it gives a platform as well for content creators to diversify different revenue. Also for creating content that can really engage within the customers, also as well as customers, it's also within brands. So with brands, they're looking really to tap into your customers, and that's who they're trying to sell to. So what we try to do within Elite Sports is to help these content creators and these gamers to really elevate their content so it's more accessible across within gaming as well. So brands have the ability to look at in-depth technology, and also looking within real-life engagements as well, the tournaments, the events, and wellness programs that are also involved.
Yeah, it seems that from what I'm understanding, there's an increasing engagement, I think, from brands like Sony, Visa even, that is, I think, perhaps would be sponsoring one of the big tournaments, and understanding the realm and the importance, I think, of this vertical that's rising, that's not just rising because it's so fun and entertaining, but it's also extremely lucrative. Gail, how do you see the community engagement growing? You were mentioning the amount of users in Saudi. What about the US and also globally? How is the community of gamers on the rise, and how does that also foster a sense of community with people from different cultures and nations?
Well, I like to look at it in terms of creating really sticky content to engage gamers and kind of promote the games we all like to play, and yet allow for the differentiation of culture. The games that are popular here are a little bit different than what's popular in the United States. And for example, Assassin's Creed is very popular here. It's not as popular now in the US, but we like to stay true to what gamers enjoy and what they like. And I also think that creating new opportunities for contests and the gamification of the gamer business in terms of contests and reward systems, that's becoming more and more popular as we move forward.
And what about, just on that note, I think something that fascinates me, and I touched upon this morning too, is bringing people together that perhaps might not have met over a game. And you find that in traditional sports. I grew up as a kid, sometimes playing hockey or soccer, and you meet people from different towns and abroad that maybe you wouldn't have necessarily met. And I feel like now that's happening in the digital realm as well. So how are you seeing that, perhaps fostering, and that creates its own sort of content, I think.
Right, and the gamer community as a whole is really to be looked at as a global community. It's kind of the great unifier. So there's no difference than somebody gaming in Tokyo and Riyadh and Los Angeles, and they all come together in the sense that they all enjoy the game, they learn, they enjoy from each other, and also providing a sense of authenticity, which I think is really important. Gamers know when you're trying to sell to them. They don't like to be sold. I talk about this a lot in terms of looking at Reddit, looking at social media. Gamers will tell you what they want, and there's a real fine line between every gamer, no matter what country you're from. So I just call it the great unifier at this point.
Yeah, it's really interesting, I think, how we're being united through the digital realm, but obviously there's that aspect of perhaps going beyond digital at some point, having a real life or kind of a real life experience as well. Manny, in terms of some of the, this is a new well, I wouldn't say necessarily a new industry, but it's an industry on the rise that's making a lot of waves and getting a lot of people hooked for the reasons that we've spoke about. What are some of the challenges? I'll ask first Mani and then Gail. What are the challenges that you're encountering? Because it's also a very competitive business. I think 20 years ago there weren't many people, weren't many gamers, weren't many people working within the gaming industry, and now there's a lot. So how are you tackling these challenges?
Well, like traditional sports, most fans inherit that loyalty. So, you know, if your father's an Arsenal fan, you generally become an Arsenal fan yourself, and you build that connection, that relationship with a sports team or with a brand. With gaming, because there's so many games that come out, there's so many updates, new titles, such a fast-paced industry that you need to keep on top of it. So the things that you'll need to do is look at the different data and the metrics, look at the different trends. If you don't keep in line with that, you'll fall behind. So what we do with content creators is just make sure that they're always relevant and getting ahead of the curve. So looking at engaging with fans with new drops, new releases, and then the challenge is always going to be competition as well. So with that, there's so many content creators out there. What can you do to differentiate and cut through the noise? And authenticity, like Gail said, is one of the biggest things. People want to follow and be part of a community and feel genuine with what you're doing. So always being relatable and having genuine relationship and building that community across the different platforms. There's so many platforms now, streaming with, you know, fan engagements, that if you're not doing the most to put yourself out there, there's so many other content creators and other people and gamers that they can follow, and you are going to miss out on building that community, which ultimately brands want to tap into.
Yeah, Gail, and your point of view on that, and I think I'm also interested. I've heard, you know, this word authenticity, which is an important word today to be used also in social media. I think in anything we do, people want authentic voices. We're sort of saturated with voices around the world. What does that mean in the gaming realm? How would you define what it means to be authentic as a gamer?
So to be authentic as a gamer is just to remain true to self, not just follow the tide just because everybody's playing Call of Duty, you play Call of Duty, take chances. It's also about, you know, providing, in terms of gaining viewership or getting someone's attention, it's about providing like a premium look or an insider exclusive or a special interview that somebody wants to see, and creating content about that. But the authenticity word is thrown around a lot, but I look at it as just being straight up true. Like, if I don't understand League of Legends, I'm not going to pretend I do. I do understand Dota 2, and I've taken the time to learn the game. So, you know, I would not pretend to make judgments on the biggest game in the world, League of Legends, versus a Dota, and compare the two, which a lot of people do. So I think it's just about remaining true to the game specific to, you know, your like or your dislikes. And it's, like I said, that helps in the sense of the global community.
I think, yeah, perhaps, and that can be used for all aspects of life. I think if we stay true to ourselves, and sometimes that's difficult to do when there's so much noise around us, but figuring out what kind of attracts us, what we like and why, and where we want to spend our time, and that obviously is important for gaming. Gail, I'm going to ask you something that, you know, we just spoke about, women in the gaming industry, because I think that's an important topic. It seems that I don't know the actual statistics, but it does seem like there's a lot of men involved in this industry, but women are increasingly becoming involved. What are your thoughts on that?
So the female gaming population is about 48% of the market. And the female demos, like I said, they're quite older than you believe, because you have moms, you have grandmas, you have young kids. But in terms of females and gaming, they mostly play on mobile. They like the puzzle games. It doesn't mean that they don't play Call of Duty or any of the first-person shooters or adventure games, but I think they are a sorely missed opportunity for sponsors and brands. I think you're going to see this in the coming years, where more of the female products are going to come into play to sponsor. We'll see more female tournaments. And it's not really a girl gaming versus guy gaming thing. It's just that we have certain likes and dislikes. Just like I wouldn't go out and play, major football, but I might hit a baseball, right? So it has a lot to do with how you're brought up and in terms of being a young child growing up gaming and what you're exposed to. But women normally, like the puzzle games, the fast games, and certainly on mobile devices, you're going to find a bigger female audience, which is really great for content creators and brands and all the integration of those aspects. So it's only going to continue to rise.
Something that came to me this morning. Hello? Yeah. This morning, there was an actor, Chike Okonkwo, who was on the panel, who has actually acted in a game. And in Call of Duty, thank you. And I found that really interesting to hear how, he's obviously a male actor, but you're in a game. You're acting in a game rather than, on set for TV or for a film, which leads me to kind of the correlation with females. I don't know actually, but do we see a lot of women acting as well in games now? Are there an increasing number of kind of female protagonists that probably could encourage women to be involved as well, or?
Well, look at the story games in The Last of Us. Bella Ramsey obviously plays that role. She's an incredible actress. I think when you look at the games and the adventure games, it's probably 60-40 at this point. But you have a lot of motion capture, artists, a lot of voiceover female artists that you're not even aware until you take a closer look at the game. So, like I said, it's about 52-48% at this point, and you're going to see it more and more, I hope.
No, I think we're in a realm. I think within the media too, you see women. At least I do, and I think other colleagues or friends of mine, women taking on new roles, perhaps more adventurous or in a different light, perhaps from past roles. So I thought maybe that's happening in the gaming world as well. Gaming as involving in tech, I think it's also something that's expanding. There's a lot of new creative aspects to that, and I'd love if you guys could explain a little bit what are the new innovative or creative elements that are kind of enhancing gaming today. How do you see these sort of making the experience more even alluring or exciting? I know, Manny.
With content creation in gaming, if you look at the main social media platforms, so Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, across each of those platforms, there's going to be different nuances and specialities that they have. So with YouTube, you have a lot more longer form content that can really build stories, like we mentioned before, and have more engagement with the audience. Then when you're looking at Twitch, and that's the streaming, you have that interactive engagement with chat functions, with polls, and engagement live and direct with your fans and your customers. A big change in innovation is blockchain. So when you look at how NFTs has grown, that gives fans and gamers an opportunity to build revenue outside of the gaming world. You also look at games now that have play to earn as well. So all of these things also almost gives back to the community. So not only are you engaging with a content creator and a gamer, but you're also able to earn as well. And the more you play, the more you watch, the more you engage with them, the larger the revenue you can potentially earn. And again, linking that back to working with brands, it's a massive marketing pull to be able to say that, you can bring all these things to the table. VR experiences is also something now, so you can almost sit there in the chair with a gamer and experience what they're experiencing. So all of these things just really bring things to life, and if you can market it the right way, it's global, and you can access that globally. And the good thing about gaming is it's not stuck by geographical limitations like most traditional sports. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I think the idea that the experience, like a VR experience, that you're sucked into another world. You kind of immerse yourself in this experience, and I think that's what's so perhaps addicting as well about games. Gail, what are your thoughts on that, and sort of new creative, innovative tools to enhance gaming?
Well, I think the story-based games that allow you to participate, whether it's AR, augmented reality, or VR, you're going to see probably more and more. They're developing some new games that I'm aware of right now that make you feel like you're having the experience right then. And yet, probably the biggest challenge with VR and that new tech in game or AR is feeling like you're gaming with someone else. Because it's very different when you put on goggles and you're sitting in a room and you can see that person. Otherwise, it's a solo experience. And I don't think it's as enjoyable as people would think it was going to be. And so now they're working on ways to write your own story in the story. And based on your choices, you have a different adventure with your person. So when it comes to AR and VR and games like what is it called? Half-Life Alyx, where you're really creating your own story immersed. Those immersion type games are not for everybody, but for the people that enjoy not knowing how the story's going to end, I think that's the next big thing.
That's really, I think that's fascinating because, we as human beings have been creating stories since the beginning of time. There was a strong oral tradition, sitting around the fire, sharing a story. And now we're in this new realm, sometimes we don't even know what to call it, a digital realm, where we're still telling stories, where you're still adding that sense of creativity and you're adding ownership to a tale. I think that's quite interesting. I'm not touching as much on the economic impact for gaming in this session, but I think it'd be really interesting for both of you to kind of talk a bit about the challenges, the highs and the lows of securing funding, which is something I touched on more this morning because it's such a creative but also very competitive industry now. And so, what are your experiences? Perhaps we can start with Gail or Manny, whoever wants to go first.
Well, when I started with the idea of creating news in and around the esports, professional, competitive, and casual game market, my background is television syndication, so I think the benefit of that is to understand audience and understand what works. So we wanted to create something that had a premium look, that didn't look like YouTube or Twitch or any of these other, content creator type opining elements to content. So we did a friends and family raise. All I did was create a little sizzle of what we thought we wanted it to look like. And basically, I think when you go out and you solicit investors, you have to have a business plan that takes them creatively where they want to go as well and share that vision. And so I did it a different way in terms of private funding. But nowadays you can go to crowdfunding, you can go to social media, you can incentivize your audience with various bells and whistles to contribute to what they want to see as a gamer. So in terms of traditional funding, I mean, I've been with the VCs, I've done those rounds, but I wasn't looking for a company to build that someone would look at me and say, I just want 10x. And so that's what brought me back to do it kind of the old-fashioned way. And we're always looking for investment, we're always looking for partners. But it's more like, let's take the news and let's syndicate that news. Let's license that news in and around the world, in and around news, and make it sticky content that's sponsorable and adds a revenue piece to every piece of content. Because it's my opinion, and I'm surely might be wrong, but you don't really want to watch 20 minutes of news anymore. We've become this short content, give it to me now generation all over the world. And I think a 2-minute news piece is just as exciting as, a 15-minute story, if not more. I want to get in, get out, understand what's going on. And even if you're not a gamer, you don't consider yourself a gamer, you're fascinated by the amount of information that's coming your way that applies to you. So, you know, funding is challenging. You have to have people that stand behind you and are going to let you do what you do well and trust that you're going to make the right decisions.
Just to add to that as well, obviously from a sports agent perspective at Elite Sports, we're constantly looking to broker deals and gain funding for our clients. So especially within the gaming world, you have to really understand what brands and investors are looking for, and getting your clients and the athletes to represent that authentically, which is so important. But also it's explaining and how your image, your personality, and the content that you create is going to be valuable to an investor or to a brand. So securing funding is usually going to be down right to the client perspective, and there's so many sports, not just in gaming, where the content creators and the athletes, they are looking for outside investment just to further their careers. You know, you've got Olympic athletes who, you know, without the lottery fund and without support from external investors, they can't train to the best of their ability, and that's going to impact how well they perform on the field. So the securing funding can be challenging, but I think if you put yourself out there and you work with the right people and you package yourself authentically, there's always going to be something that the brands are looking for. And within gaming, it's a digital world. Everywhere is looking to be at the forefront of that digital new age, and gaming does that for you.
Yeah, definitely. And a question that just come to mind is lifestyle brands. I mean, I've done work in fashion and art. Do you foresee there to be more collaborations with perhaps even, I mean, obviously gaming is in itself, it could be considered also an art, right? Because it's very creative, but from visual artists, performing artists to fashion brands, what are some of the next collaborations, do you think, or is the sky the limit?
It's been out there for some time now. I mean, you know, you have obviously the obvious one would be the Lenovo's and the gaming hardware, but you've got energy drinks, you've got health brands, you've got apparel. I mean, your prior panel with Fnatic, I mean, they have an amazing apparel brand. So I think that we've seen these collaborations. It's kind of nothing better than to have a piece of content and have what we call like a TiVo topper, which is a brand that sits on top of the screen that would say, brought to you by Lenovo, or a little bubble at the end that says, you know, Intel or Chevrolet or Ford or whatever. So every product has a way of integrating with the game world, and I think it's where you get the biggest bang for the buck for the biggest audience in the world.
No, definitely. And but I was sort of coming to my mind whether high fashion, you think at some point, Gucci, Dior. I mean,
it's already been done.
It's already been
done in Fortnite, and yeah. I mean, you have guys, performers dropping music in Fortnite. I mean, I used to joke on Fox Business a few years ago. I said, watch, you're going to have a dating app inside of Fortnite. You know, you're going to meet somebody and you get to set your likes and dislikes and match up with them. So sky's the limit, really, at this point.
I think also with lifestyle brands, they can be more integrated into real life engagement. So when you look at some of the luxury brands, Rolex, Louis Vuitton, like you mentioned, they're associated with the F1 in Monaco, and it's about the experience that the fans are getting in association with the brand. So you can also do that with gaming and the events, the tournaments, and try and be a lot more holistic as well. And to build gaming and esports to be more of a franchise similar to traditional sports. So it's all year round, it's not just specific one-off events. And you can sponsor things such as training centers and development hubs, and it's not, like I said, just a one-off events. But I think there's a real market there for luxury, lifestyle, fashion, beauty to integrate themselves within the gaming world.
Definitely. Well, I'll be watching more intensely that space. I know it's already been done and out there, but I feel it seems that even, you know, within, it's obviously a very, the industry, there's a lot of gamers, tons of people, but I feel that there's more and more, it was sort of kind of increase more visibility, I think, in years to come. At least that's what I'm understanding. You know, and particularly here in Saudi, I think just to bring, to close the talk, to bring it back to where we are now, because there's been so much investment, so much movement in the kingdom, and you have, you know, the majority, 67%, if that's the right percentage of the population here is under the age of 34. And it seems that gamers predominantly are the youth. Obviously, that number is rising, given that it's been, you know, the industry's been going for over 20 years. What do you see happening? Both of you have been to Saudi before. What do you see happening here? How is Saudi sort of leading the world in terms of esports? How will it make an impact?
Well, I think that Saudi in particular understands the benefit of gaming. I think they're a little first in terms of market penetration, because they do have the most gamers in terms of the size of the market in the world. And I think they're willing to take more of a risk because they know it's part of the youth, it's part of the culture, it's part of the brand, and they have the luxury of being able to test the market and get more of a quick response. I mean, I always joke that when you have a contest in the Middle East, what better way to get someone's attention than to find out if you enter into a contest on your phone and you can win an 85-inch television. You know, you're definitely going to give over your info. But I think they have a different understanding than we do in the States. I actually prefer it here. I think that they're willing to listen. For someone like myself that's a female in an executive position in gaming, they look at it, you know, they might tilt their head a little bit from that standpoint, but, you know, I think what we've learned in terms of how we use the media in the U.S. versus that's what we have to offer, is actually showcasing how media really works here so that Saudi and the kingdom can get the exposure that they really need to have to make sure the world knows that, hey, we're going to be first because we have the ability to do so. So I think that's really unique.
Yeah, the kingdom is making vast improvements, development across all sports, not just gaming. And, you know, it's really commendable of the Crown Prince, you know, for getting the host nation for the World Cup. Things like this just put such a big map, and it's unbelievable when you think about it that so much change and positivity has happened, and it's something that you can really tap into. It's not just, like I said, within the football realm or boxing, but gaming as a digital age. Saudi and his people, they really want to engage and get into the forefront of all these different industries. And they have the hunger and the ability to seek out new information, seek out the right partners. And I think with, you know, this kind of collaboration, it's going to go really far. And they will probably be, you know, number one across all sports in all the industries. So it's great being here. We've set up our offices now in Riyadh just to really integrate ourselves within the society and actually try to work with the people on the ground as well. There's so many people that come in and out of Saudi, but being here, is where you're really going to see the changes and be part of something special.
Thank you. Yes, this is a place where everyone is coming these days, and it's really exciting to see the dialogue and the new opportunities that's fostering. I've learned so much as well, and because this is still so fascinating for me, but I think particularly at the Olympics in 2027, I can just imagine that it will be really an incredible sight to see all these games and having people come together. I think it's really, really, really exciting new realm. On that note, I'd love to wrap this up unless you have any further thoughts, and open the floor to questions. If anybody has any questions for the panelists, I'll give you my mic.
Thank you. So, do you think the gaming industry changed after Gamergate or Gamergate?
Do I think it changed after Gamergate? I think it changed. Let's just say it ushered in a new set of rules, right? It made it so that we had the right lane to go down, and I think that it made people more aware. You know, the old adage is any news is good news. That might have been not great news, to be honest, for the industry as a whole, but I think it set the business in the right direction to be cautious. You know, just like any other business, you know, you have to be cautious to your brand and everything to protect your brand. Whether you're an influencer, a gamer, content creator, you know, musician, actor, whatever it is, you want to make sure that you go above and beyond to protect your brand and be present in the moment. But in terms of changing the business, I think it was bound to head, you know, something like that was bound to happen. And we just know this time around, when it does, I think everybody knows how to respond, you know, quickly to it. So I hope that answers your question.
Any other questions for the audience? Yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much for joining us, unless you have further thoughts, and have a wonderful afternoon. Thank you.